Okay, so Donald Trump had his State of the Union address last night. It's an annual thing presidents do, where they just talk about what they want to do that year. And I was going to go on here today and just talk about how bad it was and what was wrong with it. But honestly, I don't even really feel like I can do that because he didn't really say much. One thing I did like, though, is because behind him was the vice president and the speaker, Pence and Ryan. Um, I liked how Ryan, throughout the entire thing, just looked uncharacteristically happy. Ever notice how Paul Ryan never looks sad? He's always just going down like, I am Paul Ryan. I'm gonna screw you. I'm happy. You know, he was just sinking into that very comfortable chair. Or maybe he was going to think about how he's going to spend those tax cuts. Who knows? I'm also convinced Mike Pence cannot move the muscles in his face. It's not the entire speech was going. Like, you know how a normal person can, like, do this, or this, or this, or they can sort of move their facial muscles? I don't think Mike Pence can do that. Also, the versions I watched the coverage on, I started off just for the sake of, I thought it would be kind of funny. I started off watching the coverage on Fox, for no real reason. And, you know, and then I watched ABC's coverage. And it was the coverage I was watching, it just kept cutting to Ted Cruz. He was like, and he just had fat just drooling out of his neck. It reminded me of that episode of the Cleveland Show. Have you ever seen that? You may be wondering why I'm talking about that and not talking about the substance of the speech, but that's because he didn't really say anything during the entire speech. It was just him talking about how great everything is and how those tax cuts, which, as I've covered before, aren't really tax cuts. They raise taxes, in fact, on everyone making $75,000 a year or less over the next 10 years. They add greatly to the deficit. He kept talking about how Mattis helped defeat ISIS when the truth is Kurd armies did it. He said he was going to stop the opium epidemic, and then I immediately thought, oh good, we're going to get out of Afghanistan now. Then he talked about how we need to stay in Afghanistan, which is weird because I thought he was talking on the campaign trail constantly about how he was against the war in Afghanistan and how we shouldn't be spending all that money. In fact, he was actually, to his credit, the only Republican candidate that I saw, at least, that really hit the party previously for going into Iraq. There were a couple times in the base where he actually did that. And it was actually kind of interesting to watch. There was also a primary debate, in fact, where Jeb was talking about how George W. Bush kept America safe, or it was either Jeb or Rubio. I think, wait, no, it had to be Jeb, and then, you know, Trump was just like, 9/11 happened under him. You know, things like that. He was doing that when he was a candidate. Now that he's president, he's just saying whatever the establishment wants him to. Of course, he threatened to attack Iran, even though they haven't attacked anyone in over 200 years. And he threatened to attack North Korea because he's Donald Trump, and that's what he does. Even though Kim Jong-un supported him when he was a candidate, and even called him a wise choice. Remember that one? Probably not. They don't want you to remember that one. He said we need to rebuild our military, and we're only half funding it or something, which isn't even true. We spend more than the next 9 nations combined, and he specifically mentioned China and Russia when we spend, I think, 4 times more than China and 6 times more than Russia. And even then, he's buddies with Putin, so who really cares? What else? There was another part where he was talking about how we need to continue, we need more nukes, we need to update our nukes. Meanwhile, we have over 7,000 nuclear weapons. And it only takes 100 to end all life on Earth. We could end life on Earth 70 times over, and he still wants us to get more. And by the way, Donald, I hear that worked great for Saddam Hussein. Because of your party. But keep in mind, this is all what I expected. That's all what he's been saying for the past year now. And that's also really all I expect from any other Republican to say. I guarantee you they'd all be saying the exact same thing. no matter what happened, you know? Like, they'd find some excuse to attack Iran. They'd find some excuse, or to talk about attacking Iran. They'd find some excuse to suck up to Israel. They'd find some excuse. It goes on and on. You know, just the exact same thing. He also tried a lot of patriotism. There's one part where they all start chanting USA, USA, because Donald Trump can't actually make a good point. So just appeal to patriotism. And then he also said the U.S. official code is "In God We Trust," and it's so much of a code that it took us 180 years to start saying it. But yeah, that's really it. I'm Ephrom, and good night.